to Levi. We are now live A.
All right.
And then I'm going to go to you guys, so it shows you. Alright, you guys are Gucci. Whatever.
I'm not seeing me live on the pad though, right?
Well, you're gonna have to wait a second.
Yeah. Okay.
I just opened the gates. The water
Yeah,
has
it
to
doesn't
start
happen
flowing.
immediately. There's a little bit of a lag usually.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. Watch live now. Indian River Hauntings.
There we go.
Castles and
There we
paranormal
go.
stuff.
There we go. Okay. We are live, gentlemen. We already got somebody
We're on.
watching.
We're on.
Okay. Oh my! I got turned down. Let me turn down the. There we go. Now we don't get feedback. All right.
Alright, good luck.
We ready? We got a couple people on. We'll wait another couple seconds here. Heather's on there. Dan Squatch is out lurking. Heather Landon is on there. You know who Heather Landon is, don't you, Evan?
Well, of course.
Say hi to Heather.
No idea.
She's the mom of one of Evan's friends. Good buddies.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's kick this show. IDK just came on. Let's kick this on. Everybody seems to be here now, so let's get this show on the road. And welcome everybody to On the Air with Indian River Hauntings. I'm your host Larry Lawson with my partner in crime, Chris Huff, lurking in the dark there.
Looking in the dark.
And that handsome young man you see next to Chris is my son Evan.
I wouldn't say
so.
Who is, we shall say, the star of the show tonight?
Star of the show tonight.
I wouldn't say star.
And of course, we got Ryan also lurking in the background. Also,
And his cat.
And Ryan won't be with us much tonight because he's got school. The poor kid's getting ready to graduate from University of Central Florida here shortly, and he's finishing up his last classes. And that's where young Evan is heading for his junior and senior year come the fall. He's already got his associate's degree. And let's see who we got. Dan's out there. Dan Squatch, how you doing? We already said hi to Heather. Ike from IDK Paranormal's out there. Good to see you, my friend. Commanding Judge Dredd, Your Honor. Good to see you as always. Debbie Enzi, glad to see you on there, Debbie. The most important half of the Enzi clan is on there now. Just kidding.
That's fighting talk. That's fighting talk.
No. They know I'm playing. And let's see, Bobby Garcia's with us. Judge Garcia, good to see you. And Chris is like a mushroom, kept in the dark and fed crap. That's from Dan Squat. That's, I guess, because it's dark all the way around where you're at. But anyway, guys, welcome to tonight's show. We're going to be talking about mediums, castles, and other paranormal stuff just wherever we go. So I hope you guys got lots of questions, thoughts, or comments. Want to give shout-outs, the first and foremost, to my good friend, Ike Enzi of IDK Paranormal out New Mexico. He's got a great show on YouTube. It comes up, I think, what are you at, 26 shows now, Ike? Something like that? We're about the same, 26, 27. But when you get a chance, go to IDK Paranormal, like and subscribe to that program. It's great. He's a cop like me, and he talks about just life as a cop and the paranormal out in New Mexico. So make sure you watch that show. And his beautiful wife, Debbie's joining us tonight, too, as we can see. I want to say hi to Sherry and Nikki at Doodlebug Dowsing up in Orlando. Hopefully they're going to be listening tonight. They're actually going to be donating some rods when we hit 100 of new subscribers. So be watching for that. And hopefully Ike's going to be using some of their gear very, very soon. So with that, you got anybody you want to say hi to, Christopher?
No, nobody wants to know me, so Sodom.
Hi, Chris.
How about you? Evan, you got anybody you'd like to say hello to?
Everybody. Thank you all for watching.
Well, politically said, my friend. With that, we go into the next phase of the show, and that is the beer challenge. Now, week, and I meant to bring up an issue. Ike had his sister on his show, and they did a little beer challenge, but it was a Florida drink because she's from Florida, and she's also in law enforcement, and I know her. And I made the mistake, I guess, of calling her him. Him in refrain. So I caught flack for talking about her frou-frou drink that she brought from Florida, as well as calling her him. So I'm publicly apologizing to Miss Sylvia for that one. But in a way to kind of make up for it. And Ike, make sure you tell her I apologize publicly, okay? But to kind of make up for it, I got a frou-frou drink this time, but it's a Florida brewery called Funky Buddha Palmoa, cocktail-inspired beer, barrel-aged beer. And I have no idea what this is going to taste like, but there is the drink tonight. It's 10% alcohol by volume.
10?
But it was frou-frou, and I figured this would be the way to make amends. So I'm going to make sure you tell her that I apologize for calling her a him and playing her and making fun of her frou-frou drink. So let's taste this. Wow, that ain't bad.
Give us a 1 to 10.
This is pushing 7.5 or 8.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I did not expect that. It's got some agave nectar in it, and aged inside tequila barrels, some grapefruit juice and sea salt. Funky Buddha. It is brewed in down in Broward County near Fort Lauderdale, and I'll tell you exactly where it's at in just Oakland Park, Florida, in Broward County, Florida. So it's a local brew. Not bad. I'll give it. You know what? I'm going to give it an 8. It's really better than I.
Not really a session beer though.
No. But
no, not more than 2 of those.
No, not at all. So that's our challenge. Chris, you got anything you want to throw at us tonight?
No. It's too late for me. It's gone midnight here, and it's just too late. If I drink alcohol now, I'll just wake up in the morning.
Gotcha.
I'm good with water.
You better be. You got another year to go. Well, maybe. Evan's 20. That's what that's about. And Sherry and Nikki from Doodlebug Paranormal are on. They've just sent me an email. So hello to Sherry and Nikki. Thanks for joining us tonight in Doodlebug Dowsing up there in Orlando. www.doodlebugdowsing.com. If I got that right, ladies. If not, let me know on the screen. Tonight's show is going to be kind of interesting, and I'm going to be sitting back and listening as Chris said, Evan's sort of the star of the show. And the reason being is he never knew it until he started working with me on some investigations that he had a gift. And he's been in and out working on it, doing teenage things, high school things, now college things, in and out, trying to decide where he's at in the world of spiritual gifts. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that struggle with that. Am I right, Chris? A lot of folks just kind of not sure where they sit. Would that be a great way to put it?
With what they believe, what they can do, what they can't do,
what they're seeing, what they're feeling.
How it all works. There's a lot of people out there very confused. There's a lot of people out there saying they can, they can't. There's a lot of people out there who say they can't because of religious belief or because they think they're going to have the absolute piss taken out of them when they go to work tomorrow or whatever. So it's once again, as I say, it's a minefield. It's a minefield. You either stand up above, put your head above the wall and sort of say, look, I can do this. Or you just sort of say, well, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. And nobody's going to laugh at me.
Well, see, it's easy for me because other than having some comp instinct that I think just comes with the years on the job, I'm as sensitive as a rock. But Evan, talk to me.
Yeah, I've been, much like a lot of people, I've been in and out about it. Even now, I'm still kind of trying to find it. I understand that I'm quite young, so I understand it's probably part of it.
Have a lot to learn type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once I get more experience, I hope to come to a conclusion definitively. But I feel like I don't know. It's very hard to describe what it's like. It's one of those things where you gotta feel it to really understand it. To put it into words is very
almost
odd.
Impossible. It really is. It's almost impossible because most of what you're doing, there's no physical evidence for, and you're just picking up on things as you walk around, and you have no idea where it comes from. It's just there in your mind, and you can see it clearly, or you can actually hear it clearly, and you've got no idea where it comes from. And it really is. I mean, then you've got the big problem of sort of saying, well, hang on, guys, I'm picking up on. And then you're waiting for, like you say, you're 20 years old, you're waiting for all these guys who are 50, 60, 70 to turn around and say, what the bloody hell do you know? So you've got these problems to overcome. And all you can do, the only thing you can do is be truthful. And that's it. You're truthful to yourself. You know this is happening. Nobody else will be around to be able to see what you're seeing. So you're truthful to yourself and say, look, I know this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those events, I'd like you to share with folks about it. I think I may have talked about it on the show a couple times, but I want to hear it from you. The first time you really, really experienced it, you were out on a case with us, correct?
Yeah, that was probably one of the strangest moments of my life. Because it kind of came out of nowhere. I was completely unprepared because there was no like subtle way I was brought into it. It was just kind of like bam, snap, I'm there. It was near the can I say the locations and stuff?
You can talk about Fellsmere, sure.
Okay, so Fellsmere, where the old location of the section foreman's house is, so down the road past Marshall Landing. What that road's name is escaping me.
Broadway.
But yeah, Broadway. We were over there taking some guests to look around, and I just got really cold all of a sudden. And this was like it was like summertime. It was hot. It was a hot night, hot, humid Florida night. And I just all of a sudden got cold out of nowhere, and I just got this. I didn't see anything per se. I just got kind of like mind's eye, kind of like I could feel that there were people just behind all the trees, because the way it works is like it's like a horseshoe of trees, and the house was like in the middle of that, and I just felt people behind the trees all around it, and for some reason I just knew they were Indians or Native Americans for some reason. I don't know why, or it just kind of came to me. And I was just kind of standing there in awe, just watching, just kind of like what's happening. And obviously I was a little bit scared too, because, yeah. And my father noticed this. He ran over to me and he asked me what was wrong. And I was like, Dad, they're watching us. They're all watching us. He grabbed my arm, felt that I was cold to the touch, and pulled me out of there as quickly as possible, as a frightened father would. And
I wouldn't say frightened. Let's say concerned.
Concerned.
Okay? Yeah.
Concerned. Yes. And he probably did the right thing.
Oh yeah, I felt much better after he did that. Like I started warming up, and I had to really like kind of come to terms and think about what just happened, because I at the time I had no idea.
Well, and just to add the father side of it, I watched you. It looked like you were almost in a catatonic state. You were just staring into the woods. And when I asked you what's wrong, they're watching, Dad. They're watching. Who's watching? The Indians, Dad. They're watching. I mean, that was and had you ever had an experience like that before, Evan?
Nope. Up to that point, we all get feelings like we feel something over our shoulder, or something's watching us. You know, we all get that. We all instinctively have this, but that's what I had up until then, just like a gut feeling. But up until that was like the first time that just completely out of nowhere freaked me out.
What do you think, Chris? Analyze that for us a little.
I can't analyze another medium because we all do things slightly differently. Evan, do you get that feeling you can walk down the street and you can just immediately say, that house there is haunted? You can just say, there's spirits in there, I can feel them. And you can walk past another one, you say, there's not much there, and there's not much there. And then you come to another one, you go, whoa, I wouldn't want to go in that one. That's
a little tough for me. There have been moments where if it's really strong, then I'm like, oh yeah, no. I get a feeling in my solar plexus for some reason, and it's just pressure right there in the middle. And if I'm near somewhere that has a lot of energy, then that will start happening. But I can't like walk down the street and say haunted, not. Like that's not. That's not something I can like.
Talk about your visits to the cemeteries, in particular Arcadia, and then we had the event at the Winter Beach Cemetery not too long ago.
Cemeteries, man.
Okay, talk about how that.
I don't do cemeteries. I really don't. I don't like them. There's too much going on. They creep me out.
Too much going on, and it's like everything out there is trying to drain you of all of your energy.
Yeah, really is.
By the first 10 minutes, you are slogging around because you are completely drained. Not only because I don't think it's so much as they're trying to drain you of energy. I don't think it's like a purposeful thing. I think it's just everyone wanting to talk to you all at once.
That's exactly it. Everybody wants your attention. You know, you've walked in, you've got a light on the other side because of the ability that you've got. They all come to it like moths to a flame, and you have to give a little bit of energy for them to talk to you. And yeah, I don't do cemeteries. It's too confusing. It's draining. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's just no.
There was one cemetery I didn't actually mind. It was the last one that we went to, Dad. I forget where it was.
That was Winter Beach. That was Winter Beach.
I didn't mind that one so much.
But you still felt things.
Oh yeah, I felt things, but I didn't feel like things were draining me every 5 seconds for some reason. Like, remember, I was drawn to specific places, but for some reason it just felt more manageable. I don't know why. It was that one. It's never happened to me before at a cemetery, but I don't know. I guess either they didn't want to talk to me or they wanted to be nice to me. I don't know.
Or there might not have been too many around.
True.
That's the other thing. I mean, you can't go to these places and assume that every time you go there, it's going to be full of spirits, because blatantly it isn't. Sometimes you go, it's full of spirits. This applies to houses, this applies to halls, to pubs, to everything. Sometimes you go there and it's absolutely full. And other times you go there and there's 1, 2, none, and it feels just absolutely empty.
Yeah, that's why
you can't say what you're going to get.
Yeah, it jarred me a little bit, because up to that point, I've only felt like whenever I'm at a cemetery, they're all around us, and that was the first time I was like, oh, this is pleasant. This is nice. This is the silence.
I mean, you will find as you go on that some spirits are more demanding than others, and others just come through with a lovely feeling for you. Mm-hmm. You know, they just want to spread the love around, and others just want to take whatever they can. So it's a roller coaster, completely and utterly, and you can't predict what you're going to get. You walk into a place and it changes within 5 minutes.
Yeah, I have felt there are some times where things can go switch on a dime out of nowhere, and those kind of moments freak me out the most, I think, because it's unpredictable.
You'll get better at it. Literally.
No,
as you get older, as you get more confident, as you learn a few tricks of how to take care of things, it won't become too bad. But at the moment, I can remember back to being 6-year-old and having nightmares all the time with people coming and talking to me, and I wasn't in control. I couldn't do a thing. So yeah, I do know where you're coming from.
Now, Evan, you talked to me. There's a couple things I want to bring up. Before I do that, I want to say hi to Bobby Garcia. He's there. I want to say hi to Spanky. He's on. And Crystal Shavers. Good to see you, Crystal, members of the FBPI. So thanks for joining us tonight. I remember you talked to me one time, Evan, about in school. You were taking a test or doing something in school. Can you explain what happened there? And tell me what you saw. Did you see anything, or was it just feelings? What was that?
I never see anything. Not usually. With my eye, like my eyes, like I'm seeing this water ball. No, I don't see things like that. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that's so precise that you can almost see it. That's how I would describe it for me. I know it's a terrible way of describing it, but anyway.
No. It's honest, and I know exactly what you're doing. And as you go further on, you will start to see, and you won't see through your eyes. Mm-hmm. You'll see it in your mind, and it will be as though a little scenario plays out or a film runs in your mind. Mm-hmm. but it lasts for a second, and you will be reanalyzing that for 3 or 4 weeks because there is so much in that 1 second that it's unbelievable, and you can turn it around in your mind. You can see it from different perspectives, and then you start getting to the point where you can actually feel what's going on with what so-and-so's thinking at the time and what the other guy's thinking at the time, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's so much information in 1 second.
Mm-hmm. And you just gotta analyze it, but
you can't analyze it at the time. You've just got to sort of watch it, be there, and then analyze it afterwards.
Mm-hmm. But
what happened in the school, the classroom thing?
That wasn't a specific time. This just happens sometimes. Just I don't know. Sometimes like you'll be in class, either being a test or what have you, and you just you get the feeling that one is with one of the students. They just bring them in, and it's especially disruptive when you're taking a test because you're trying to focus really hard, and this one person's like, hey. You want to talk? And you're like, no, I can't. I can't right now.
You actually felt that happening.
Well, I'm putting it in terms that's understandable, but okay. It's a feeling that it's just it feels like a pressure, just tightening. The more they want to talk to you, the more pressure you get. And
physical pressure.
Physical, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I can't describe if it's physical or not. It's just kind of...
It's distracting.
Feeling. Yeah. It's very distracting.
That's the best way of putting it, that something is trying to demand your attention. It's distracting. And you can feel them around. It's almost like somebody can... It doesn't actually feel like somebody puts their hand on your shoulder, but in your mind, you can feel that somebody's put their hand on your shoulder.
I think the way I described it of I can't see it, but I can feel it so strongly that I can just barely see it. That's probably the best way I could describe it.
And see, that's where folks like me have a problem understanding. I want to understand, and I don't doubt it, but it's sort of hard for me to comprehend exactly what you're saying. And that is the marked difference between a investigator or somebody studying the paranormal with your gifts and somebody like me that there's not. A couple things real quick. I want to say hi to Liam Ritchie out there, my nephew, Evan's cousin. He's out there.
Liam.
Mike Maxwell, I said, is out there. Christine Enzi on there. Chris, glad you're joining us out there. 2 questions for you. Barbie Garcia, and this goes back to our cemetery discussion, but all cemeteries are the exception. I'm not sure, Bobby, what you mean by that. If you could help us out, because we kind of moved past that, but restate that question. All cemeteries are the exception for what? I'm not sure what you mean, my friend. And Debbie Enzi would like to know, Chris, have you ever asked a spirit to bugger off?
Almost every day.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, I had another friend at York University who wondered, am I allowed to swear on here? Well, sod it. I always do anyway.
Sod it.
Yeah, sod it. He just had enough one day, and he just went out to the middle of the wasteland at York and yelled out at the top of his voice, "Leave me the fuck alone," because it gets like that.
Uh-huh.
They just will not leave you alone. Some days they will not leave you alone.
Have you had that happen, Evan? Have you gotten to that point yet?
No, and I think it's because I'm not there yet. I'm not at the point where I'm so in tune that every single day I feel there are some days that actually most days now that I'm stuck in the house most of the time, that I don't feel anything. I go walk on the street and I just don't feel anything. I think
so. You're a streetwalker. You're a streetwalker.
You're bringing them up wrong. You're bringing him up wrong.
Sorry,
he's got to pay for his education somehow.
But I think I just don't think I'm at the caliber there yet. But once I do get there, I'm sure I'll be like,
Well, here's a question for you then, Chris. Yourself, you had experience as a child, and certainly you watched the movie The Sixth Sense. The young actor there, he was seeing.
I like that.
It was.
I like that film.
It was one of my favorites of all time. But my question to you is, Evan's starting to just grow into this in his late teens, in his young adulthood. Is that unusual?
No, it can happen. You might turn 60 and all of a sudden something turns on.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Everyone is different. This is why I believe everyone has this somewhere in them. They just have to find it.
Well, that's where I was going to go next with this.
I believe that as well.
They just have to find it. You just have to find how to make that connection. Because, like you say, you've got this cop instinct, and that's you're just using exactly what I use. But that the way that you use it is just channeled into that direction. If you start analyzing whenever you feel this, whatever you're feeling, and then start opening your mind up to what else is going on, then that's all I do. And you start looking at the images that you come in, that come into your mind, and there you are. You're doing it.
Okay. Bobby Garcia came back. He said when Chris states that he does not do cemeteries, they are off limits, and even stated that he had a few that were okay, and he didn't feel anything. Evan stated, yeah. You won't go to cemeteries. Evan's had one cemetery where it actually felt good. I actually want to go back to Arcadia in a second, Evan. Are there exceptions for cemeteries?
I think he thinks I said I didn't feel anything at that cemetery. That's just not true. I felt a lot.
Questions too. Good. Huh?
I felt a lot at that cemetery. I'm not saying I didn't feel anything. The difference was I just didn't feel like I was getting drained the entire time I was there. Because what happens a lot of the times is when you're at a cemetery, everything is trying to talk to you all at once, and some way or another they're just siphoning energy from you, like they got a straw in you. But for some weird, I still felt them, but for some reason, it didn't feel good. It just the fact that it didn't drain me was good. It didn't this is a massage. It didn't feel good.
Hey, if you find a cemetery where I can get some massage, I'll go there.
You'll
Bobby's
be the first to know.
And Ike's out there in New Mexico saying he's never gone to a graveyard and not felt something. Would you guys agree with that statement?
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I just don't like they're too oppressive. There's too much going on. They're too oppressive. I can't control it, and if I can't control it, I'm not in control. If I'm not in control, I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sounds like you got that same stick that I've got when it comes to that.
You lent it to me when you came over here. I did wash it first.
Evan, I want to go back to Arcadia now, just to give everybody a little bit of a history in case you don't know it. When Chris and I began to talk, and he was a guest on my original show on the X Zone, because we have a love of aviation, in particular the Royal Air Force. My father was in the Royal Air Force. His father was in the Royal Air Force. And Chris is, and he's not going to like this.
No, he's not.
But I don't care. I'm going to say anyway. He is in my opinion, the world's expert on haunted Royal Air Force airfields. I'm just saying it. So at any rate, he also talked to us about an airfield, actually two of them in Florida. And as much as I consider myself pretty learned on the Second World War aviation, I didn't realize that the Royal Air Force sent their young men to 5 spots in the United States for flight training early on because they were getting bombed. Chris sent us down to Arcadia, Florida, which is just southwest of us. And Evan and I went there. We've actually been there several times now. And 24 British airmen died in our country learning to fly. They gave their lives in service of their country in training. And they're buried in Arcadia, Florida. Chris asked me to go down there and check it out. And we're going to talk 2 parts about this, Evan. We went to the graveyard in Arcadia, and then we went to the major airfield they trained at in Clewiston. When we first got to the Arcadia Cemetery, Woodcrest, I believe, was the name of the cemetery in Arcadia, Evan. You remember seeing a particular person there that just kept coming up to you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Talk a little bit about that and how that made you feel.
That moment was pretty cool, actually. I will admit, it was. I was just sitting there, and for some reason. No, this was a little bit ago, so I'm gonna have to go back in my memory a little bit. But for some reason, there's this guy just kind of standing there with a big smile on his face.
So you do see them.
I get if it's I don't see them standing there. I get pictures in my head.
That's what I'm saying. But don't expect to see them through your eyes. You're not going to do it.
Yeah. So I saw a uniform. It was switching between like black and green. I didn't know which color it was. I couldn't see any medals or anything because that's too specific. He was just standing there with a big smile, and he was watching over what everyone there, and he was kind of protecting that one spot. This was like a sacred spot for him. And he just was there. He didn't really pay us any mind. His job there was to protect this spot. And
what we're able to kind of determine, I naturally thought he was wearing an RAF set of flight coveralls. But in talking to Evan about the colors and finding out there was an American that actually, and his name's escaping me right this second, I was about to look him up. He oversaw the training there, and it was an American. And what Evan was describing was possibly an American flight suit.
Don't forget, it doesn't have to be somebody buried on the airfield or in the cemetery. It could be somebody coming in from anywhere around. They've just seen somebody's there who can talk to the other side, who can see us. We'll go there and see if we can talk to them. It can be anyone.
Now, the other part of that journey we took, it was 2 summers ago, I believe, Ev. We went to Clewiston, and we found the airfield that now is pretty much part of the county airfield, but the part that the RAF training was on is now just grown over cement. Do you remember what you saw there?
Was it the marching?
The marching, yep.
Yeah. I same thing through the mind's eye. I could see rows of people kind of in formation, just kind of marching down, and then gone. Just marching. And I was wondering if that I still don't know if that was someone trying to show me something, or if that's a residual, just energy, just looping.
Have you seen it again?
Well, I haven't really been there that often.
Right. The only way that you can say that is if you see it again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And again.
Yeah. I'd have to go back.
This is what I've had with Larry, discussing different types of hauntings. There's nothing to say that it's not some form of time slip as well. That you're actually observing something happening in the past.
I never considered that, actually.
Well, Chris actually has a very interesting theory about the hive mind that just
very much so. That everything's.
That was a whole discussion we had on one show one night, Evan. That was really pretty fascinating.
Hive mind. That sounds interesting.
We'll go into it another night because
it'll
take up the whole show. But we'll have a really long chat about this. But the whole premise is that memory is stored somewhere in the ether outside of the body, and you just access it, so that everything is still there. So that if you're mediumistic, you can access memories. So the past is, if you like, the past is still the present.
That does sound very deep.
Very deep, it is. Let's talk a little bit about what some people out there, I mean, Chris is convinced that if he had me for a few weeks solid of just working with me, I would be able to discern the other side better than I can.
30 minutes.
6 minutes. Okay. I still doubt
All right, 6 minutes. Yep, I'm doing 6.
Just speed run this.
But there's a lot of folks out there, Evan, that are like you, that are, and you've said it to me a million times, Dad, I'm not sure it's real. I'm not sure that. Talk to us a little bit about that feeling, and because there's probably some folks out there that are listening that have felt the same thing.
Oh yeah, all the time. The first thing you think, the absolute first thing you think is, yeah, I just imagine that.
Absolutely and utterly, yes, absolutely. And then it comes back stronger. And that's the thing about it, that you say, no, I'm imagining this, and it comes back stronger with even more information. And you go, no, this is bollocks. I've read it somewhere, and it comes back with more information.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way that you can know that it's something outside of your imagination, that this is coming on. And then you think, bloody hell, even if I directed Hammer horror films, I couldn't imagine this.
Yeah, it's still something I struggle with today. It's something like, yeah, there's no way. Like, because with my, I like to think, I know it's hard to believe. I have a slightly logical outlook on things, on how things work, right? And
nope.
Okay, just let me have this, okay?
Okay.
And when I think of it logically, that's when everything starts falling apart for me. And then I go back and I feel something again, and I'm like, but wait. And it just keeps flip-flopping.
Well, Evan, the things that really hit home to me about your ability is I never even thought twice about it until you saw what you described were Native Americans in the woods in Fellsmere. You at that point did not know what I knew, that the Ais Indians back in the early days inhabited that area. That was key. When you described the marching on the abandoned, on the overgrown, weeded area that was the barracks for the RAF cadets, and you described their marching, you wouldn't have known that.
Well,
Describing
that one time on the tour.
Go ahead. That's an excellent one. Bring that up. You're right.
I mentioned that one specifically because this one is probably the biggest one in my head. The biggest point of confirmation that I've gotten, like, ever. Because we do these historical ghost walks in Vero, and I accompany on a lot of them. And every time I do, there's this one spot where it's the same lady in the same building. And we did investigate this building later on, but and same thing. She just, like a snapshot in my head. I saw a white dress, like wedding dress, long brown hair, and she was not happy. She was just not happy.
Yep.
And the first thing you think when you see something like that is, marriage gone wrong and stuff like that. So I wanted to dig deeper a little bit on that. So every day or not every day, but every time we go on a tour, I would try to spend a little bit of time trying to connect, and getting a little bit more information. But one night there was a guest. It was a girl. Who saw.
Well, back up a little bit. When we investigated that building, we actually got an EVP. When you asked, "Do you like what they've done to the building?" and we got a very clear "Oh no" on the recorder. So that was part of the story too.
Yep, that's a big part of the story. I'll let you go into that half because you know a lot more about that part. But
so we had a tour, and there was a couple of young ladies in their early teens that were on the tour.
Yeah. Young teens go on the tour. We're walking. They see in the window of the same building where Siri just went off. They see in the same building where I feel the lady. A lady standing there, and they. Am I missing something?
Yeah. Well, let me interrupt a little bit so it makes a lot more sense. We completed the tour, and the two young ladies walked up to me, and said, "Mr. Lawson, we've got to tell you something." And I said, "Go ahead. What is it?" My friend here saw something in that window, and I said, "What did you see?" "Well, I saw this woman. She was wearing white and long dark hair." Now, we had never mentioned anything of this to any guests, what Evan had saw and experienced, nor what we'd had happen inside the building during the investigation. I quickly called Evan over, and that young lady described exactly, to a T, what Evan had described.
Yep, that one point, that was the biggest point of confirmation for me. I've never had someone see exactly what I saw, and it was a little jarring because I'm still on that stage of not really knowing. So it hit me. It just hit me different.
Thoughts, Mr. Huff?
He's just reiterating what happened to me when I was far too young to know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like I know what I'm doing, doesn't it? And I don't. I'm just making it up as I go along as well. Still.
Nobody's an expert, but you have far more experience than most. Dan Squatch has a question. He asks if is being sensitive hereditary, or is it just that everybody's got it? I gotta believe some people have it more than others, because I do not have the gift that Evan has. I've never had the experience.
I think you would have if you just learned how to connect with it. This thing, if you believed that you could do it, is a start, and then one day you might have one of these earth-shattering visions in your head, and that's it. It kicks off.
You've had a moment one time.
Oh, I think. Yeah. You talking about the old school?
No, talk about when you were driving one time.
Oh, that time slip thing that we talked about. Yeah, where I was driving and suddenly didn't realize how I got there. I think I was just probably tired. That's all.
Well, don't tell me.
See,
don't tell me that.
Logicking it out. He's logicking it out. He doesn't want to accept any other version apart from logicking it out. I was
driving through the town of Fort Pierce, and I literally ended up somewhere else. And it was in the middle of the day. I really wasn't tired. It was just a very strange event. But I've always passed it off as I just was thinking about other things. But yeah. That has happened. That's true. But
it sounds like a very good candidate for a regression there.
Okay. Well,
it really. If you know anyone who does regressions,
well, describe what regressions are.
You're put into a meditative state by someone who is qualified to do so, not someone who just says they can do it, and they take you back to the time when this occurred, and they take you through the experience.
Okay. Oh.
I mean, it's like as if you had a past life, Evan, and a regressive session will take you back and possibly connect you with that past life. Would that be accurate, Chris?
Yeah. There's one thing that I'm sorry. In my life, there's one experience where I've had half an hour of time lost. That was the Epping Forest account, where we were chased out of the forest. There's half an hour of time missing, and we turn up, like you, in a place that we've got no idea how we got there. And I keep sort of toying with the idea of, I want to be regressed about this. And then part of my mind just says, no, you don't want to do it. And at the moment, the part which says, no, you don't want to do it wins. I don't really want to find out.
See, that is the thing about this entire the research done into paranormal phenomena. Why is this happening? People, I got asked a question last night. I'm sorry. Are you looking at what Dan's saying?
I love it.
Dan Squatch is saying the aliens probed me. I'm trying hard not to laugh. And then, of course, Ike's got to chime in with that explains the stick. So thanks, guys.
That's just to fill up the gap, isn't it?
Anyway, I'm trying to get serious.
I know it.
But that's why, we got talking a little bit earlier about all this. That's why the study of this, I think, Chris, is so important. Do we just pass this off as, oh, gosh, it's just something out there that's happening? Or do we try to find out what's going on? And everybody's laughing on the screen now. Crystal's laughing. I think they've gotten away from the conversation.
Blown them away now.
Now listen, Chris joined us, had a question. Would someone seeing what Evan saw close to the same thing as someone talking to someone you dreamt about and describing them? Do you see that question, Evan? Chris Costa.
Would someone seeing close to the same as someone talking to someone you dreamt? So somebody talked to another person that looks identical as someone that you've dreamt of. I feel like the premises are pretty much the same. You get a feeling of what someone looks like, and it turns. Well, I think it's. Well, what do you think, Chris? What do you think?
Help me with the question. I'm not
sure where that one's going.
I think I understand. It's what he's saying is me seeing what I saw and then
The window.
having the girl see the same lady that I saw. Is that similar to, say, my dad talks to someone that you don't know, Chris, but you dreamt about that person that he talked to, and then you find out that that person that you dreamt is real because my dad talked to him. Are those two things similar?
I can give you an example of something which is similar but different. I had a video up on this, but I've taken the video down at the moment. I might put it back up. I don't know. Richmond Castle. We're on to castles.
Yeah, let's head down the castle road.
Which is fairly close to me. Had a dream about a Norman, or somewhere around the Norman period, in Norman robes, which are very rich. He had a jeweled dagger at his hip that he was playing with his left hand. And in his right hand, he had a very rich jeweled goblet. And he told me that his name was Alain Delille. Not Alan, Alain Delille.
Oh, I know the story.
Good French. So I woke up in the morning, told Judith, and we said, right, we're going to go down to Richmond Castle, which is not that far away. Went down, and I was walking around and taking a video while I was doing this. It's amazing that I actually have the video on doing it, because I usually just don't remember. And I got to this point and I was describing about what I saw, this chap that I saw, exactly where it was, the video camera pointing towards it. And I actually said his name, and he told me in the dream that his name was Alain Delille. And it comes back very clearly with an EVP saying, Alain, good French. Exactly as I had in the dream, Alain. Now, that was really quite staggering when I heard that.
I see that there's I misunderstood. They are seeing them on the other side. So I feel like what you're saying is actually more similar to what they were saying than we thought.
Help me out.
Because Chris said, corrected me, saying, no, they're seeing them on the other side. So someone who sees someone on the other side that you dreamt about. So, oh gosh. Say, I see someone on the other side, but Dad, you dreamt about the same person that I just saw. But you didn't know that.
Okay.
But you don't know that I saw them. Dreams are very powerful. Dreams are extremely. They're a good way for, well, from my understanding, because I'm still learning. They're a good way for things to talk to you. It's like a gateway. Things kind of can communicate with you through that medium. So if that's the way that they choose to talk to you through, then...
Well, now we're getting into that whole world, and I want to talk about castles in our last few minutes, but then now you're getting into that whole world of we really don't know the power of our own brains and what it connects to. And
Absolutely.
I think that's a huge key to a lot of this also, is the power of our brains and how it's connected to the other side. And I believe that it is. And Chris's theory of that hive theory is an example of that.
Well, but I also told you about the experience of my mother, didn't I? Where I was having another of my migraines. I get so many migraines, or did. It's easing off slightly now, but so many migraines that what I do is I just try and go to sleep and sleep it away. And I was on the settee where I am now, and I drifted off. No painkillers. I just drifted off, and half an hour must have gone past of me trying to sleep it off. And the phone rings. It's my mother, and she's frantic. Are you all right? Are you all right? What's happened? Are you all right? Have you had an accident? I'm saying, no. You just woke me up. I was sleeping, trying to get rid of a migraine. She said, the front door just opened. She's in the lounge, which is down the corridor and at 90-degree angle, and then you go into the lounge. She heard the front door open. She heard footsteps come down the corridor. The door to the lounge opened. I stuck my head through around the door, or sort of part of the body came in, stuck my head around, said, hello, mother, and vanished. And she thought I was dead. So she just had to find out. But That's how weird it gets. So be warned, it can get that weird.
Well, and those are all the questions that we just don't understand. I mean, out of body experiences. Was that you in spirit form? That's a whole different topic for another night. But I want to talk a little bit about castles now. Evan, next time we go to England, you're going with us. Okay.
I better.
Okay. But you've been doing a lot of work, putting a lot of stuff out lately on castles in England and different structures. What are we missing here in America that you have in abundance over there when it comes to these ancient ruins?
Just about everything, really. No, America really you've got the native Indian culture, and then you've got 1800s, with some bits going back to the 1700s, and some bits going back to the 1600s. The 1600 over here is still fairly recent.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking.
I saw that when I was there.
You know, we're talking, 3000 BC stone circles and things like this, still just littering the countryside. Castles which were first erected in the 1000s. And you can just walk around them, they're just crumbling ruins by and large. And most people just ignore them.
Well, it's just like living in Florida. The beach is no big deal because we all live here, but you're from the middle of the country. The beach is something special.
Exactly.
With you guys, it's got to be the same type of thing.
You see it every day. You're complacent about it.
But one thing that you described to me that was really, really fascinating is that the people that you confront or you encounter, is a better way to put it, in the castles aren't necessarily the folks that lived there, are they?
No, they might be George, who was a farmer just up the lane, or they could be someone out of the local pub. They just come to see, if you've got that little light going on the other side saying, hey, I'm a medium, I can see you, you might be able to talk to me, blah, blah, blah. They just come charging in. They could be from anywhere. They could be any time. You go onto an airfield which was in use from 1940 to 1944. You might get someone who was alive in the 1700s. So you'll get a name. People will assume it's to do with the airfield, but it's not necessarily. You'll just get the name. So it might be someone who was around in the 1400s, 1700s, 1800s. For all I know, it might be someone in the future. I don't know how it works.
Do you think that castles, we'll just use that as a generic term, castles are more haunted or more active, shall we say, than other venues such as pubs or homes in England?
Not really, no. It's very peculiar. It depends upon, like Evan will tell you, it depends upon the day. It depends upon what's happening when you go there. There might be just more spirits around at one time and nothing at another time.
Yeah, it's saying something is more haunted than another thing is kind of it's kind of a weird statement sometimes because
it implies a constant.
Yeah,
and it's not a constant.
When really it's always changing, always moving, always
it's in constant flux.
Okay, is this something you guys feel? Is this something you guys sense? This change?
You just walk into it, yes, and it does change. It changes within seconds.
Like,
you can walk into a room and it feels empty and it feels fine, and then all of a sudden it feels very, very cold and hostile.
A good example is the Winter Garden Cemetery. That last time I went, I felt lots of things, but I didn't feel like. But the next time I go, it might be a completely different experience. I might feel completely drained, completely uncomfortable, and it's you get for me to feel the change. I have to go to the place constantly and notice the patterns. But
well, I think that's one thing that people do miss about investigations. They go once and that's cool, and they never go back. You've got to go back and back and back and back and back. Absolutely.
Besides that, it changes every single time. There's always something new.
Now, Bobby Garcia just brings up an interesting question. Is it seasonal? And that's something that, Judge, I'm working on too, are there certain atmospheric or even solar conditions that create or allow things to happen? And that's one thing that I hope someday to start working on, and that's going to be to determine whether certain events happen more often at certain times. So, but it's seasonal. What do you guys think about that question? Is it seasonal?
If you're talking about a non-sentient haunting, possibly.
And
sorry. That's your residual, isn't it? Yeah.
Residual, right?
That awful bloody term, residual.
It's a
possibly,
Yankee term.
It's possibly because if you've got this recurring memory, we don't know how it records. We don't know what causes the playback to come back. So if you're dealing with something like this, then you've got to look at the variables. Then you start saying, well,
exactly.
What is causing this to happen? If you're talking about a spirit, no, because they're wandering in and they're going out, and they're wandering in and going out, and then somebody else wanders in and goes out. You might never ever see them again.
Well, we actually investigated a place, and we won't. It was a home, so we won't mention any names.
Yeah.
But we determined, correct, Evan? You remember the house I'm talking about? It was a portal.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And people were just coming through and moving on. And there was one that stayed. There was one that stayed. Was like the gatekeeper. Evan, is that a good way to put it?
I wouldn't say gatekeeper, but just kind of watching, making sure everything runs smoothly. I would say more of a like a manager.
Bit of a protective entity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stopping the naughtier things from coming. You will learn eventually that there are very nice spirits, there are very nasty spirits, and there are some things which are incredibly nasty. By and large, you won't meet the incredibly nasty things, not if you don't go looking for them. Sometimes you're unlucky, and if you do meet something and you start thinking, I'm out of my depth, get the hell out of Dodge.
I mean,
listen to that voice.
The way I see it is they're people. You run into some really nice people. You run into some really not nice people.
I used to think, it's just spirits. But I've run into one or two things which I think these aren't spirits. Mm-hmm. And you can tell the difference.
I luckily have not, luckily, thank goodness, I've not encountered anything like that yet.
Do you remember what happened to me in the school that night?
That was kind of crazy.
That's probably the only time I've had something affect me, and that's where we were actually conversing with a DR60 recorder with somebody in the old school, and then suddenly I almost passed out. Evan caught me as I was going to the ground, and then we asked, "Did you do that?" And we ran the recorder right away. Correct, Evan, you heard it too.
Yep.
Yeah. Next time it's you, bitch. Was exactly what came across.
That's just a mean bastard.
Yeah.
That really is.
Once
you've had a spirit go through you, you'll never forget it.
Oh, and that's the only time it's happened to me, and I will not
because
forget.
you literally cannot control where you are. It just feels like you're treading water. You go.
Now, we've got 3 questions coming here. Ike brings up ancient holidays, maybe. Now, you go back to the ancient pagans and present-day Wiccans that have certain holidays that was the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the different changes of the seasons. Do you think that has an effect on the activity? Halloween, All Hallows Eve. Excuse me.
I've never noticed any I don't do what you call the residual hauntings at all. I'm not interested. I just do spirits.
But do you see spirits more active? No difference.
There is no difference between the activity. They just come in, they go.
Yeah, I'd have to see more. I'd have to have a little more evidence because I'm not really looking for that. If I was looking for that, then maybe I could draw a conclusion, but
now Mike's talking about with a medium on site of an investigation. Do you think that brings more activity to the investigation team? Do you think the fact that you're there with your gifts will make the venue more active? Evan or Chris, your thoughts?
I find it will often bring a lot of conflict.
Okay.
For reasons that I know an awful lot of mediums in the past who've tried to take over groups. They're just doing different things.
But does their presence create more activity?
It can. It really can. If you get more than one, if you get 2 or 3 and they're all working together without this sort of horrendous narcissism that a lot of them have, that look at me, aren't I good, aren't I cool, camera on me, guys, I'm going to tell you all about this person that I see in the corner. If you get 2 or 3 of them and they're just ordinary people doing what they're doing and they're tuning into each other and they're seeing similar things, then it's like there's a Gestalt. It's like an energy starts forming around, and the spirits can feed on this or use this energy, and more activity happens.
Okay. Bobby Garcia brings up a question. I know you'll like this one because you and I have talked about it a lot. How about violent acts, murder, war, abuse? Do these things make an impact on either sentient or non-sentient?
Both.
I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Some people, well, as we've said before, it's not just the victim.
No.
Which is something we need to work on. Some people are trapped by what happens to them. And I don't like the word trapped, but they can't escape from it. They're not actually trapped there, but they're going over it again and again and again and again. It's almost like, how dare you, and I'm still frightened, and loads.
Are we keeping you awake, Evan?
No,
We're
sorry.
keeping you awake? Okay, sorry.
The emotional
apologies.
energy is terrible. So, but then you also get the perpetrators, who I believe like to come back and revisit the scenes of their triumphs.
And we've talked about that many times, haven't we, friend? Going back and investigating the scenes of murders
this is
and
something
serial
I
killers.
really want to do.
Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. So, well, gentlemen, we're about at the end of the time here. Any parting words for us? This has been a very interesting conversation, with the exception of that one spot we got a little confused, but that's okay. Any parting thoughts?
We always get confused because of terminology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we both agree on. We need a terminology that we can identify. So we say spirit meaning spirit, ghost meaning apparition, a ghoul meaning an apparition which is non-sentient, which now just appears as a feeling. Things like this. So you can actually have a terminology between everyone that everyone understands, and they can talk the same page. And that's important.
Yep. I totally agree with that. Evan, any parting words as our guest tonight?
It's done already? I'm just getting started.
Exactly. This is how I feel every week.
Anything you'd like to say, or any parting about people that may be thinking that they have the gift, but they're not sure what to think about it?
Honestly, there's nothing I can say to convince you more. You will go back and forth for a long time. I'm still doing it. I'm still not 100%. But I'm clinging on to that hope that one day I will, and I really do believe I will. Like, I think everyone who's in the same position I am will. But I don't think there's anything I could say to really speed up or slow down any of that thought process going on. But just be truthful to yourself.
Exactly. That's all you can do. Just be truthful. I've given everyone who listen to me as much evidence as I can. Even to Ike, and I've never seen his house, and I've never met him, and it's
we got to go
4,000 miles away. And I still say to myself when I'm picking this up, "Oh, come on, you're making it up."
Yeah.
No, that's rubbish. You're making it up every time.
You know, between Ike and now Spanky jumping on this, are you reading this, Evan?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's feeding me.
The stick, folks, is a common term used to say Larry's got a stick up his hind end because.
Oh, I think I found it.
Oh.
No, it can't be. He left it here.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, folks, it's
still somewhere on Ousbridge in York.
We don't talk about that. What happens in York stays in York.
That's another episode, ladies and gentlemen.
That's another episode. Yeah, York.
Folks, we really, really appreciate you joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed some of the insight that Evan was able to bring as kind of a new medium, as well as Chris being the experienced one that he is. We hope that you'll enjoy it. Join us again and that you enjoyed the show. Remember, if you haven't done it yet, hit subscribe and hit that little bell icon so that you get notified of our latest content. There's some other things that are going to be coming up. Hopefully, we're going to be chatting about them soon. Thank you for everybody for joining us. Please share this. The more people we have joining us, the more we can get the word out. Until next week, folks, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Thank you.
Now, we may still be on for a second.